All right, let's bring on George.
Hey, Kelly.
George. Oh, thank you for donating, Michelle. Bye.
How you doing, Kelly?
Good. Thank you so much for moving your time earlier.
No sweat. I mean, I was hanging out in the comic book shop all day, so transition from one geek culture to another here. So there you go.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't seen The Last of Us, so otherwise I'd stay for your. It's on my list.
I don't want to spoil anything for you, but it's perfect. So there you go.
I mean, I love Pedro, so.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the games, and my wife watched me play those games all the time. So, so she's a fan as well. But yes, we watched it. I mean, I was looking for it for accuracy and whatever else, and just how good the show was going to be, any changes they're going to make. And I mean, I would dare say there's not a better adaptation of anything I've seen in a long time. So, yeah. High praise. This is high praise. But we'll get into that later. In the show here, don't want to spoil too much for you, but yeah.
So. Well, I will pop off. I will let you have the studio.
Okay, cool.
Well, I will be back in an hour to interview Amy Hasbeck.
I'm jealous. I had.
She's awesome.
I still do. I had such a crush on her, especially with Robin Hood Men in Tights. I'm a huge Mel Brooks fan, so I saw that movie in theater 6 times. Yeah, 6 times.
Well, at the very least, stay on screen and say hi to her.
I sure will. Yeah, I'd love to.
All right. Well, have a good panel.
Thank you very much. We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. So, yeah. As we were saying earlier here, we are doing the Multiverse fundraiser here, as you guys may be tuning in here. If you haven't checked out the Fanatic Forum before, my name is George, and I am a lifelong comic book fan of 40 plus years. I'm also big into TV, movies, wrestling, you name it. I'm kind of all over the place on my geek loves. So this is a show that's dedicated to all that. Each week I talk about new comic books and then whatever happens to be my topic of the week. And this week I got a couple of things to talk about here. But first, we got to play this. Well, officially, happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the Fanatic Forum. I'm George, your Fanatic and host, and I hope you guys are having a lovely day so far. Thank you very much to Kelly Gettner and her wonderful interview with Jason Behr. I got a personal connection, not with Jason, but with one of his pieces of work, The Grudge, the remake of Ju-On. My first date, I was on with my wife. We saw that movie, not in theaters. After hanging out at a comedy club and dinner, we went back to my place and watched the movie, mostly. But yeah, so that was my first and last date with her. And of course, we've been married for going on 18 years now. So yeah, so that's a special place for my movie there. So, but good to see everybody there. Skylar, good to see you, dear. Ryan Permisson, hello. Dave, all right, good to see everybody here. So yeah, so got some cool comics to show you guys here. Yeah, and then let me get this off here. All right. Yeah, it's been a busy day so far. Anywho, so got some cool comics to show you guys this week. And then we're going to talk about the first episode of The Last of Us. And then one more thing I definitely want to show you guys. Since we're celebrating the life and the career of John Ritter, and we're donating, one of my favorite movies of his is Stay Tuned. So we're going to talk about that. But stay tuned. All right. First off, one indie book I wanted to show off last week, but couldn't get a chance to because we didn't get it in just yet. But nevertheless, I got one here. Nemesis Reloaded from Mark Millar and Jorge Jimenez. I have been waiting for this book for a very long time. Originally, gosh, it was 2011 or 12, I think, when the original Nemesis came out. Very successful book for Mark Millar. Basically, we were dealing with kind of like an evil Batman, throw in a little bit of the Michael Douglas film, The Game, for good measure, just kind of a little mix in there too. But just a tremendous book, very violent, very dark book as well. Many, many years later, Mark's finally doing not so much of a sequel, but kind of somewhat of a remake. I use that word loosely, but somewhat of a remake of this. But off to a very good start. There is a revenge plot that Nemesis has against the city of Los Angeles, and we don't exactly know what that plot is just yet. But he's got a hate on for LA, and so he's going to cause a lot of death and destruction on the way. So highly recommend that one. Definitely want to pick that one up. Talked about the first issue, this one before, but we're going to celebrate some Mark Millar this week here. Nightclub issue 2. This is a lot of fun here. A young teenager gets in basically he's trying to do a stunt for YouTube, gets in an accident and breaks his neck, is in serious condition. While he's in the hospital, he's visited by a vampire who turns him and then basically tells him he's trying to put together a team of people to go out and, fight crime, right wrongs, and whatever else. And basically this kid is the first recruit. And so naturally he goes and tries to recruit his friends to come along in this very strange journey here. So though it's got, a somewhat dark subject material, it's still a fairly light book and almost kind of comes off like a bit of a superhero book. But enjoying this so far. So, of course, you can't beat that price here. $1.99. When was the last time you saw a $1.99 comic book that was brand new? So, really liking Nightclub so far. So, Mr. Johnny, good to see you, sir. All right. Next up here from Vault, the third entry into the Barbaric series, Hell to Pay. This has been just unadulterated, very, very, trying to think of the word I'm looking for here. This is not your granddad's fantasy book. Let's tell you that. It's very almost kind of a punk, sort of feel to it because it's, I don't know. It doesn't adhere to a lot of the natural rules of things. There's a lot of foul language in the book, so not safe for kids here. But it's a lot of fun. You've got your main hero, Owen the Barbarian, who is wielding a cursed axe, who talks to him, and the axe craves and drinks blood of any kind. And of course, the axe has got quite a personality itself. Then you come across basically, some other compatriots, along his journey, an old running buddy by the name of Steel, who has a dark secret himself that he may not be entirely human. And then a newer character to the group, a witch named Saros. And she's quite a feisty character herself here, but a lot of fun here. In the previous series, Owen was sent to hell. And so now Saros and Steel are trying to find their way to essentially rescue Owen. But of course, it's a fantasy book, so the journey is not going to be easy. Fun thing is Saros is wielding Owen's cursed axe, so Owen is without his axe in hell. But we get to the end of the issue here, and Owen's reunited with old running buddy. So it's kind of a happy reunion here, and you get to find out that maybe hell isn't all that bad of a place to be. So AC/DC may have had it right. You never know. Yeah. Dave's saying $1.99 for Nightclub is a darn affordable price tag. Yeah, it's really good. It really is awesome there. So yeah, and Johnny C, he also enjoyed it as well here. And rest. The first rule of Nightclub is do not talk about Nightclub. Well, you could talk about Nightclub if you want to. Go ahead. All right. Last of my indies here. This is House of Slaughter number 11. And remember, folks, you can't have the spell slaughter without laughter. One of my favorites here. But yeah, So this is starting up a whole new storyline. That's the fun thing about House of Slaughter. It's been kind of an anthology book. The first few issues dealt with Damon, so, who was in. We saw him in the first few issues of Something Is Killing the Children. Then the next storyline essentially dealt with the Scarlet Masks and kind of how, one of their, you follow one of their, members, but you kind of see how the whole, culture works with that particular order, because essentially they're not hunters by trade, like the white masks, the black masks, and some of the other ones. They are more kind of the housekeepers and the documenters and the librarians and whatnot. So, but the one character in that storyline in Scarlet, he basically is sent out to kind of, to do that, the dirty work there. So it's kind of an interesting storyline, very surreal. This one, of course, is going back to an earlier storyline here. And so we get to basically see the Butcher's return here. Of course, he's a former hunter who's now in hiding from the rest of the group and seems to be compiling children who have had these, experiences with monsters and, seen the horror firsthand, but he's trying to protect them from the order. So basically they don't essentially, get into the life he did, which basically is, monster hunting. And, it's not a nice business. Very, very horrific stuff there. So he's essentially trying to save them and himself from the rest of the order. But maybe they're going to catch up to him sooner rather than later. So very good stuff there. Coming up from Marvel here, got a trio of books here. The conclusion, and I'm sad to see this one go here because I've really been enjoying this storyline here. Issue 10 of Strange that Jed MacKay has been doing here. Of course, Clea is the Sorceress Supreme right now on Earth, with Stephen Strange being dead. But we've seen throughout the series that Stephen wasn't quite all dead. Yeah, he's right there. Here you go. Yeah, he wasn't all dead. So the lovers were reunited, and now basically Clea has spent the rest of the series trying to find a way to get Stephen back. And as we all know from our Marvel previews, coming in April, there's a new Strange series coming out here that Jed MacKay, thankfully, will be writing. And Pascal Ferry is going to be doing the art for that one. So with Alex Ross covers, so you can't beat that. But spoiler alert, the Doctor is in. So, come on. We knew that was going to happen here. Yeah, Dave Manley is saying the Doctor Strange comic has been very fun. I agree. I've always been a fan of, taking the traditional, tentpole characters of the Marvel Universe and putting them in unusual situations. This is a great example when Otto Octavius was inside Peter Parker's body doing the Superior Spider-Man run. Love that run. Infamous Iron Man, where Doom's running around in the Iron Man armor. Love that. Just, their Jane Foster Thor, all that stuff. Love the we've got our traditional characters, we've wiped them aside, and we're doing something different here, but we have the known thing there, the thing we recognize, we love already, but it's just a little something different. So, yeah, thoroughly enjoy that. So we got a little bit of a break on Strange for about a month or so, but I believe it's in end of March, early April was when the new one's coming out. So, yeah, very much looking forward to that one there. Dave saying Superior Spider-Man and Infamous Iron Man were far better than I thought they ever could be. See, there you go. Yeah, anything Doom related, I'm in. So I'm normally not a big Iron Man fan, though I did enjoy the previous Christopher Cantwell run, which is kind of like, kind of stripping down Tony, from his wealth and his tech and doing a little more, grounded storyline, even though he gets cosmic powers and fights Korvac, but nonetheless, it's a more grounded storyline. But now the current Jerry Duggan run's pretty good too, kind of taking a little bit off from the Christopher Cantwell run. So yeah, I've been enjoying that so far. But yeah, the infamous Iron Man run, you can't beat Doom in Iron Man armor. Next up on the list here, Avengers Forever number 13. And of course, this is part 5 in the Avengers Assemble storyline here. This one, of course, is dealing with the current Phoenix trying to get the Logan Phoenix variant basically back together, literally. Because we find out a little bit about how the last issue, Mystique was this Dark Phoenix that had been recruited in this multiversal Masters of Evil. And it turns out that basically she had taken her Phoenix power from Logan, who, as we know and seen in other variants, eventually becomes a Phoenix in a much distant future here. So Logan's been reformed here. We've got Thor's granddaughters, of course, doing their thing. And this is a great issue for those trio of ladies to shine. So love them in this book. But most importantly, though, we finally find out the identity of the elusive Avenger Prime, the person who has put all of this together to oppose Mephisto, oppose this multiversal Masters of Evil. Who is the person behind this plan? Well, it should have been obvious, but it's an old friend. And I don't want to spoil this one. So, yeah, just in case you guys haven't read this one, Avengers fans, you got to pick it up, because if you've been puzzled, like, who's this Avenger Prime guy? You had your ideas, you had your, I even for a long time thought it was Wiccan, Billy Maximoff. But no, I was close, but not quite there yet. So there you go. John says your LCS did not carry this book this week, so you got to get Saturday the next town over. Oh, that's a bummer. Hopefully it is. So John says Avengers Prime is who I think it is. I don't know, Johnny. Who do you think it is? Let's see if you get it right. I'll wait. No? Okay. Okay, here we go. You are correct, sir. Yeah. Because you can't have an Avengers without a Loki. So, yeah. So there's a lot more for that to come, because Avengers Assemble is not over yet. But yeah, that's a great mic drop. But that's not the big thing, though, because there's more to come in that issue, and I'm going to leave that for let you folks read it there. So I spoiled one big thing, but I'm not going to spoil the other thing. So yeah. Last but not least, probably one of my favorite books of the week. Yeah, Punisher #9 in the Jason Aaron run. This has been a tremendous reinvention of the character, with having him be the fist of the beast, working for the Hand as their general, as potentially the reincarnation of the beast himself. The Fist have been trying to resurrect this demon for centuries. Maybe Frank's their boy. To basically entice him to come over to them. They're saying, oh, we'll work with you. We'll kill all the bad guys. No problem. Hey, on top of that, how about we bring your wife back? All that stuff seemed to work on Frank. He's getting further and further corrupted. Now basically going mano a mano with Ares, the god of war. You might think, there's no way the Punisher's going to win. It's a fight. Of course, as we know, reading with Daredevil as well, he's attracted a lot of attention within the superhero community, so Daredevil being one of them. But there's another group of assembled folks who they may have some problems with Frank as well. And so perhaps there's going to be a big team up to have to put this guy down, if they can. I don't know how far this is going, but this is definitely probably one of them. It's not an entirely far out book. That's the nice thing I like about this run. I mean, we've seen Frank Castle as an avenging angel. We've seen Franken Castle, but this is a Frank Castle we've never seen before. But he's also dealing with a power set and level that we've never seen before. But Jason's really doing a good job of grounding Frank still and really kind of ingraining what we know about his origin, what we know about his life, before Vietnam, after Vietnam, and then before basically, before and after essentially his family was killed. Apparently there's a lot of other machinations going on that Jason's worked into things, and the way he's done that, the way he sort of reinvented the character a little bit has just been very impressive. So yeah, highly recommend reading that book. Or even if you're not a great Punisher fan, this is still a really, really interesting twist. Dave's asking, any Punisher storyline will have a hard time topping his recent meeting with Moon Knight. Funny you should mention Moon Knight, Dave. Funny you should mention him. Mm-hmm. Here we go. How does Beast Punisher compare with Cosmic Ghost Rider? Beast Punisher has no sense of humor and is not insane. He is completely in control of his faculties. He has his stuff together. Cosmic Ghost Rider went insane and kind of went almost a little Deadpoolish. So it's a very stark comparison. It's two completely different Franks. But yeah, this is probably Frank at his most together, which is scary. With having all this power and control over an army full of undead ninjas, and also having his wife resurrected, and maybe possibly this is the book that kind of gets her, basically she's, with the program now, so to speak. So yeah, again, not much of a comparison there. It's very, very, very different people here. Last but not least, my somewhat of a recommendation, somewhat of kind of an interesting thing here. So my one pick from DC here is the DC Universe Lazarus Planet Assault on Krypton. Now, this isn't so much as a tie-in book as it is an anthology of things. Of course, the main Lazarus Planet storyline stems from the events of Batman versus Robin issue 3, where basically issue 4, where basically the Lazarus Island that they're on, the source of the Lazarus pits, where Damian and Batman are fighting after Damian has been basically manipulated by a demon. And essentially this is all a demonic plot to essentially resurrect this guy's boss, essentially. And in doing so, a volcano has erupted, and now all these Lazarus storms are blanketing the earth, affecting everything, especially if you are a tech-oriented or magic-oriented person. It's either canceling out tech, or it's really interfering with it, or just reacting completely different ways. And the same goes with magic users as well. So this, of course, is basically affecting John Kent, Power Girl, and of course Mercy Graves, who is I guess, chauffeur, bodyguard, what have you, for Lex Luthor. And so, yeah, she is basically, there's a lot of changes going on here. Of course, we're with John here kind of maybe going back to a little bit of a throwback to what his dad looked like in the 90s for a brief period of time. So yeah, so it's some interesting stuff there, but it's, again, kind of it's an odd book. So I expect a little bit more of a cohesion and not essentially 3 separate stories of kind of Superman adjacent characters that are how they're affected in this whole thing here. So I'm kind of curious if that's how the rest of some of these other tie-in books go before we wrap things up in the Omega issue, and then we'll also get the last issue of the Batman versus Robin miniseries that kind of ties this all together. So we shall see, but there are a few questions I have. All right, we're going to take a short commercial break here to acknowledge our sponsor, Comic Books for Kids, but we'll be right back.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.
All right. Our main topic of the week, The Last of Us, which is the first episode is currently streaming now on HBO Max, based off the video game of the same name, released by Sony. As I was talking to Kelly at the top of the show before we handed things off here, I could not think of another more perfect adaptation than what we have before us right now. And this is only the first episode. Granted, the first episode is almost 90 minutes in length. It's like 80 something and change, but it will be the longest episode of the entire series. The other I think the other 8 episodes of the first season will be about 45 minutes in length each. But yeah, just absolutely perfect adaptation from game to screen. Granted, there are a few changes, and I'll discuss those in a little bit. But just I couldn't have been absolutely any more happy with this adaptation here. The tone, the photography of the whole series itself, the fact that a lot of the score music that was quite iconic with Last of Us is used throughout the series. Of course, it's a lot of very soft kind of acoustic stuff where it's very kind of haunting, it not scary, but very, very haunting, almost sort of, morose, sad sort of music. Because if you're not a fan of the games, if you haven't played them before, spoiler, this is going to be a drag. This is not quite like Walking Dead. This is going to be a much more mature series, I think. A lot of tough decisions are going to have to be made in this stuff. And Pedro Pascal, who plays our main protagonist, Jake, is not a nice guy. He used to be, but if we see kind of the opening 20 minutes of the first episode here, this man has been severely broken due to the death of his daughter. Kind of the opening moments of this outbreak of this basically fungal disease that has started, changing people. It's not quite like a zombie sort of plague, or it's not even it's a little more akin to like kind of 28 days later, 28 weeks later sort of thing. So it's, got a little bit different tone, but the opening scene of the episode really sets kind of a good, just gets us off to a great start, because it kind of almost gives you an explanation of what the outbreak actually is, the potential of what this could do, and then jump forward to, a few years later where it actually happens. And so we see just, the horror and chaos that this causes very quickly here. So, but yeah, basically, essentially what we're dealing with, though, is a kind of like a fungal virus, where that's the thing is that, if something fungal does, of that nature would come about, we're kind of screwed, because, yeah, we have some antifungal medications and, drugs that we use, but nothing on this level. This, of course, would start off with infecting, the elderly and the infirm and stuff like that. And then basically, the main goal of this disease, of this fungus, is to spread. And so that's literally what it does. And kind of even the method of how it's, spreads from one person to the next is really clever, because it looks like, it's kind of like a zombie thing where they're biting them, they're eating them. It's not really that. It's almost kind of like a transfer sort of thing, but yeah, so we're, see a lot of the chaos, a lot of the, the tragedy that's happening very early on. Of course, we've got, the brother, or sorry, not Joel's brother, Tommy, who's played by Gabriel Luna. And of course, you see, very early on, the good bond these two guys have. We know Tommy's a former soldier, possibly Joel is as well, but both these are very capable men. So that's at least, we have some sort of, comfort from that early on. But then, of course, they're, trying to escape, the traffic, trying to get out of town when things are starting to go down. And then essentially they're rerouted by military. There's a car accident, and, right then and there's, basically the soldier that kind of confronts them is ordered to put, all of them down. They try to get away. Unfortunately, Joel's daughter is killed, and that's kind of what really kicks off everything. That we jump, flash forward 20 years, and now we see how the world is now, and we see how Joel is now. And this is basically, he is a man only committed to surviving, possibly being reunited with his brother, but for the most part, he's concerned with surviving by any means necessary. And in this new world, there's a lot of restrictions. There's a lot more do's and don'ts that we have. Of course, it's under the guise of protection for people, but it is, much more oppressive of a world here, much more akin to, kind of corrupting, because we see, Joel, and then he has a friend, Tess, who, seems like kind of a companion, at least not necessarily a significant other, who's played by Anna Torv. And I'm so glad to get Anna Torv back in a regular series because I was a huge fan of Fringe. So I was really glad to see, I'm going to be glad to see her back on a weekly basis here. But, so at least they're companions, so to speak, in this new world. But they're smugglers, they're thieves. And then the one major change is that Joel's a drug dealer. He's basically got pills to sell to the soldiers. He's got one in particular is kind of his, I guess, favorite customer, so to speak. But yeah, so that's a new, twist for Joel that wasn't in the original game there. So yeah, it's an interesting development there, but it also makes sense. But really, for the most part, that's our only difference between game and the series right now. So yeah, so again, I'm very impressed with that. But we'll get some comments here. See what we've got here. So Crayley's saying that she can't wait to watch The Last of Us. She was so sad she never got to play the game, but she's glad she doesn't have to miss out now. Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing is that really, so far from what I've seen, there's not a lot of changes from game to what we're seeing in the show. So you're going to get a very true adaptation. So that's and that's the thing too. There's a lot of folks will sometimes want to say, oh, I want to keep my adaptations pure. Some people don't mind changes. This one, I think, is kind of a universal. Like there really wasn't much that needed to be changed for this. These were very successful. There's only 2 games right now, but they were very successful and have been for quite some time, and really kind of a standard bearer for the Naughty Dog publisher who released the games, because you get such you get good action, you get some good horror elements and good gameplay, but the characterization and the writing is so strong, and the emotions, especially in these 2 games, are so strong. You're mad, crying, you're going through emotions while you're playing these games that you would not expect. And so yeah, it's just it's definitely a journey, that's to say. But a couple interesting things. There's some old friends in this series here that I did not expect. For one, later on when we kind of midway through the show, once we do the time jump to 20 years later, we start hearing about this group, the Fireflies. And possibly, are they a terrorist group? Are they freedom fighters? What are they? And then Joel and Tess are basically trying to get out of town, trying to get their truck to do whatever they're going to do. And it turns out, this person they know, Marlene, may be the leader of these, this group of people called the Fireflies. And they've got a special job for Joel. Because they've got this girl named Ellie who, for whatever reason, she's important, and they need to get her to Seattle, because that's apparently where the Fireflies are stationed and seem to be having, a little more, solid base of operations there, so to speak, a little more resources, perhaps. I don't know. And currently I think right now they're in Boston. So, cross-country journey. Yeah, so a lot of stuff going on there. But the interesting thing, though, is that the actress who plays Marlene, who's named Meryl Dandridge, she actually played Marlene, did the voice for Marlene in the game, in the original Last of Us. So, that was, as soon as I saw her on screen and heard her, I'm like, wait a minute. So that was a wonderful surprise. She is the only actress or actor that's been involved with the games that gets to reprise her role from the games on the TV series. But that's not going to be our only friend, because Nolan North, who did the voice role for Joel in the game, or both games, he's got a role that's coming up later on in the series, a completely different character. So I watched an interview with him when they were doing the premiere, and basically he was saying it was extremely surreal for him to experience the game in reality, for one, but then to also experience the game, from a completely different perspective. He's not playing Joel, he's playing somebody else who's involved, with the action, what's going on in this series. But yeah, he's not the main character. So very interesting. So it's but I was delighted that Merle's in the series, and then later on we'll see Nolan come up later on. So yeah, very delighted about this. But yeah, we've got a total of 9 episodes are going to be in the first season. So like I said, the first episode's already out and streaming right now, and new episodes drop Sunday at 9. So if you're still using cable, you can watch it on HBO, or if you're streaming, you can watch them on HBO Max Live. And my wife and I, we watched the first episode as it premiered last week, and didn't have any issues with streaming, and it was highly watched and highly rated. So HBO, thankfully, was ready for us. So I was glad about that, at least. So, but yeah, this, like I said, just a tremendous show, really setting up some good, some good horror elements coming up. Because right now we kind of, get a bit of our introduction. We see, maybe some later mutations of, people who have been infected. That's, the longer essentially you are essentially, I guess, infected with these disease, the more mutated you become, the less human you become. So we're going to see lots of examples of that, including the infamous clickers, which are creatures who hunt by sound. So yeah, stealth is the key to surviving them. But yeah, I can't wait for the rest of the series. It definitely feels like we're going to be covering the first game in the first season, and I have no doubt we're going to get a season 2 to cover the second game, because the reception, the ratings for this were there. I think it was out next to House of the Dragon, HBO Max's second highest rated series. So for a premiere, so yeah, it didn't beat House of the Dragon, but it got real close. So yeah, the audience is definitely there. This is an adaptation that video game fans have really been waiting for. There's so many times we've had video games adapted into film or series, and sometimes they've just been lackluster and half-hearted. Sometimes they've been very worthy tries. I think the last Mortal Kombat film that came out a couple of years ago, I think, was kind of our first entry. Like, okay, we can actually make a decent film based on a property and not be embarrassing. And then later on, Sony followed up the Uncharted film with Tom Holland. Again, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm a big fan of those games, enjoyed that film. So, we're now seeing that, much like with, comic books before, we are finally getting serious adaptations of the source material. They're being faithful, or as faithful as they can be. And we're getting some top quality material out of that. So you can't be mad at that. Can't be mad at that at all. So very happy about that. All right. Take a drink of water real quick here. Well, so I work at a comic book store when I'm not broadcasting here. And so we have a Whatnot channel. I was on there for about almost 3 hours today selling comic books. And then I'm on here talking to you guys. So yeah, I need some water. Dave is saying that a very good comic to streaming adaptation from last year's Paper Girls. Yeah, I would agree, Dave. That's currently streaming on Amazon Prime right now. Unfortunately, it's not going to get a second season. It was canceled after its first, which is too bad, because this has kind of like a less gimmicky Stranger Things sort of feel, because you are dealing with a bit of like time and dimensional travel, with also basically a retro throwback, with a bit of a mystery as well, too. But of course, the fun thing is that all the girls who are the lead characters, they're all paper delivery people. So that's kind of the thing that all reunites them. They're friends. Then they get embroiled in some wacky stuff here. But yeah, but I would agree. That was a really good comic to streaming adaptation there. So, and I think we're going to start seeing a lot of stuff in the near future. I know, of course, Mark Millar still has a deal with Netflix, so we're going to see some more of his work being adapted into series or movies or whatever else, where we're getting another season of Neil Gaiman's Sandman series, even though they don't want to call it a season 2, because it's maybe more like a book 2 or something like that. But what we do know is we're getting more episodes into the Neil Gaiman Sandman series from Netflix, and I don't know about you guys, but that was fantastic. And I'm not a big Sandman fan, but that's good stuff. Great gothic, horror drama sort of thing like that. General weirdness. Yeah, that was beautiful stuff. All right, so wrapping things up here, since again, we are doing the multiverse fundraiser here, we're doing donations for the John Ritter Aortic Health Foundation here. I got to talk about one of my all-time favorite John Ritter movies here, 1992's Stay Tuned. Yeah, love this one here. You guys know, or anybody who's watched the Fanatic Forum, I'm a huge Weird Al fan. Of course, I'm wearing my supplies. One of my favorite jokes in the movie. Anyway, this is a great double feature with UHF, because while it's is not a direct parody of film and TV, there is a huge part of that in the movie here. Basically what this is that Helen and Ray are a married couple with children. Helen played by Pam Dauber from famously from Mork and Mindy, and of course Ray is played by John Ritter. They're definitely having some problems here. Maybe Ray's a little bit too much of a TV junkie. He would much rather just sit in front of the boob tube, consuming 47 channels and nothing on, sort of thing like that. Again, they're having some marital troubles because of this. And then one fateful night, Jeffrey Jones, a very dapperly dressed Jeffrey Jones, shows up to Ray's front door with an offer he can't refuse for this crazy huge television with 600 plus channels of all kinds of stuff he wants there, and it's free. Well, you can't beat that. Come on. So, he gets this thing installed, gets the satellite installed, everything like that. And what he starts watching isn't the shows and movies he's normally used to. There seems to be kind of a connection to things. There's a lot of dead people in there, or maybe people who are currently living in the afterlife. Just some very, very weird stuff. But again, just not according to Hoyle television stuff here, but still seems entertaining, but just a little weird. But then apparently there's some interference going on. So Ray goes out to check the satellite and gets sucked up into the satellite. And of course, just in time, Helen shows up, starts arguing with him over the new TV, the new satellite, and she gets sucked up in the satellite as well. And so now they're both basically in hell, stuck in this TV film world, and they're going to have to basically jump from channel to channel, show to show, acting out what they're supposed to be doing, trying to survive. And if they get through the night, they get to go back home. So it's apparently some sort of deal that's basic, because Jeffrey Jones, is a upper level demon, but he's, not the big demon. So he's looking for souls and trying to garner favor with the boss and whatever else. But yeah, very much coming off like a, corporate sleazeball, terrible boss sort of thing like that. So oh, here we go. Yeah, Kristen Marie says 3 Men and Rosemary's Baby. Yeah, that's one of the films that they do there. Fantastic stuff. You get to see the 3 guys standing over the crib. You get the wonderful moment of them singing "Good Night, Sweetheart" to this darling child, only for them to be covered in pea soup vomit. So my favorite one is Wayne's Underworld, where you get a undead Wayne and Garth, and Ray basically is on their couch, and they basically get to torture and abuse him and call him a sphincter boy and all that kind of good stuff. So and I love to that later on, of course, Ray and Helen's kids see what's going on and are trying to, basically help their mom and dad in, different ways or whatever else. The son, who's the younger of the 2 children, is kind of like the brainier kid, while, his sister's the popular girl, doesn't want anything to do with her stupid brother, sort of thing like that. But they end up having to work together to help mom and dad out. There's another sequence I absolutely love where Ray and Helen are stuck in a cartoon, and the cartoon is drawn by Chuck Jones. So it's like this great Looney Tunes moment that they have here. Of course, there are mice, and there's a big evil demonic cat robot that's going after them to try to kill them and eat them. So yeah, it was a wonderful sequence there. it's my favorite one next to the film noir sequence, where basically, like, Ray's playing a detective, having inner monologues, but he hears his own inner monologue and realizes he's having an inner monologue, and so it's some funny exchanges there. So there's a lot of parodies that still work. There's some that are a little dated, like if you're a kid that doesn't know what Wayne's World is, that's going to go right over you there. Some of the 80s movies they parody, some of them still work, some of them not so much. Like, Rosemary's Baby, you may not be familiar with 3 Men and a Baby. So, but yeah, nonetheless, it's still I absolutely enjoyed the film here. Johnny's saying that he knew Pam Dauber from The Girl, The Gold Watch, and Dynamite. Not sure if I'm not sure if I'm familiar with that one here. So, Dave Manley says, "Stay tuned sounds a bit like Amazon Women on the Moon." Yes, actually, a great triple feature would be Amazon Women on the Moon, UHF, and Stay Tuned. Like I said, Amazon Women on the Moon and UHF are definitely full on. We are, according to Hoyle, parodies of television, movies, stuff like that. Amazon Women on the Moon is very much more of kind of an anthology sort of parody, like a Kentucky Fried Movie or whatever else. But yeah, this one has a lot more of a, well, UHF does have a plot and a storyline as well, but this one has a little bit much more of a cohesive storyline that just, in the Chewy Center, once we get past the lollipop, when we get the Chewy Center, oh yeah, there's some parody in there too. So there you go. So, but yeah, again, just really thoroughly enjoyed, kind of just the very sardonic takes on things. It's still kind of warm and fuzzy, but there's, there's some great cynicism in there as well. Kristen Marie saying that she recently rewatched Stay Tuned. It's on Amazon Prime. Yes, actually, I watched it last year. I hadn't seen it in a while. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to revisit there. It still holds up as far as I'm concerned, and it's nice because, like I said, there is some sardonic humor in there, but it's still enough family friendly that you could have the kids in there. I mean, the little ones wouldn't understand what's going on, but your preteens, your teenagers, yeah, they would know what's going on, and so they'd be down with it. But oh yes, it cannot forget Eugene Levy. Oh yes, thank you, Kristen Marie. Yes, Eugene Levy is kind of the smarmy underling of Jeffrey Jones, who, or is it, I can't remember if he's the underling. Yes, yeah, because he's the underling, and then he gets thrown in the TV world as well. And I can't remember, he keeps losing body parts. I seem to remember. For some reason, I keep remember like he lost an arm or something like that. Or he's getting attacked by dogs or something like that. Yeah, Eugene Levy gets thoroughly abused in this movie here. So yeah, I thank you very much, Kristen Marie. I can't believe I actually forgot about Eugene Levy being in the film. So like I said, it's been about a year since I've seen it here. So another one, I didn't get a graphic for this one here. Another one I got to talk about that I have not seen in a long time. I need to go back and watch this one. But this was another favorite one. I think this came out a year before Stay Tuned, or at least around the same time. But got to talk about Real Men. That's a gem that needs to be uncovered again. Basically, you've got Jim Belushi, who plays a federal agent, CIA sort of character, and then John Ritter, who's this average person, kind of, I wouldn't say he's like a hapless kind of guy, but he does dream of better things, and wants to be kind of an important sort of thing there, but is it kind of almost kind of like a Secret Life of Walter Mitty without all the daydreaming sort of thing like that. But once Jim Belushi comes into his life, he's involved in this alien conspiracy where apparently aliens are going to come visit us at a certain time and destination that we've received this message from them, and we have the choice of one of two gifts, either the good package or the big gun. So the good package apparently will make the air clean, make the water clean, will fertilize, deserts, all sorts of good things, make Earth, a happy, wonderful place to be. And of course, the big gun, well, we don't need to talk about that one because that can probably just destroy everything and end the world. So it's also sort of a morality test as well. And so we, of course, there's lots of action and comedy that happens throughout the film. That's basically, again, we're trying to get to our location, we're trying to get to our meeting here, and everybody in the world is trying to stop us. Sometimes even people on our own side apparently are trying to stop John Ritter and John Belushi from completing their task. But we finally get there, and of course our boy John makes the right decision and asks for the good package, and then we basically will get clean water and clean air and singing and dancing in harmony and all sorts of stuff like that. So, but yeah, I just really thoroughly enjoy that kind of. There's definitely kind of the buddy cop comedy aspects to this. The fish out of water, who has to rise to the occasion sort of elements in there as well. But yeah, so just again, a fun movie there. But kind of one of those hidden gems there. Oh, Dave Mattingly is saying that Real Men is free on Tubi. Ah, okay, I gotta check that out. Yes, I've got Tubi downloaded as well. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go watch that then. So yeah, it's been a very long time since I've seen Real Men, but yeah, it made quite an impression, obviously. I will say another one I haven't seen in a long time that I wish would get discussed a little bit more that doesn't is the rare sex comedy that he did, Blake Edwards' Skin Deep. That's an interesting film there. It's been a really long time since I've seen that one. But of course, the most infamous scene from that movie, and it's crazy that this was in the trailer, but basically it's, John Ritter's character has been, kind of a, it's a, finding romance sort of thing like that. A lot of dating, a lot of stuff going on there. A lot of intimacy between adults sort of thing. And there's a scene where he's basically having, he's meeting up with some lady or whatever else, and they're going to have sex. And he has a glow in the dark condom. We get the black screen and see, glow in the dark condom. And then unfortunately, the girl's actual significant other comes into the room, like trying to do an intimate thing, and he's only wearing his condom, and then realizes, hey, there's another guy over there. And so we get a very strange Star Wars-esque battle with this stuff. And again, like I said, it was kind of a shake your head and like, okay, sort of thing. Like, but this was apparently the big moment, in the movie. This was kind of like, oh, this is gonna be the thing everybody's gonna be talking about here. And they even put it in the trailer. It's part of the advertising for it. It's like, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. But again, somehow it worked there. So, but yeah, it's one thing I've always appreciated about John's career is just how prolific it was. He's really, did all sorts of stuff, because of course we know him best from Three's Company and a lot of the other television work that he did. But then there was so much other film work he did too, some a little bit after Three's Company, some while he was doing it. And then of course later on, of course we see him kind of dip out for a little bit. He was having a family and enjoying that. And then of course got to come back with Bad Santa. I mean, who would have thought with that role there? Just someone that was so someone we knew was so sweet and wholesome of a guy getting thrust in this movie, and I guess sort of playing a bit of himself because he was pretty startled and disgusted by a lot of the stuff that Billy Bob Thornton's character was doing. But yeah, I really enjoyed that one as well. So well, we're getting close to wrapping things up here. So I do, of course, want to acknowledge one more time here that we are, of course, within the Multiverse fundraiser here. We are accepting money and donations. Well, we're not accepting money, but doing donations, of course, for the John Ritter Aortic Health Foundation. And of course, when you donate, you get put into drawings for some awesome prize packages, whatever else. So lots of cool stuff to look at through there, and then eventually get some nice swag as well. But of course, you gotta this is just the tip of the iceberg here. I mean, I'm like Jason Bear and I are the opening act, apparently. We got a lot more stuff coming up here because, of course, today we've still got Amy Yazbek. We've got Guy Gilchrist coming up later on. So that's exciting there. I'm really excited about the Amy Yazbek interview, of course, because it means, like I said at the top of the show, I'm a huge Mel Brooks fan. I grew up on a very, very heavy diet of that. And so I saw Robin Hood Men in Tights 6 times in the theaters when it came out. So that's always been, it's within my top 3 for sure. And number 1 wouldn't be the number 1 you expect. We'll talk about that later. So lots more great stuff to come here, but I do want to go ahead and play a video here for you guys, and then we'll get things going next time here.
Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse fundraiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefundraiser.com, that says donate here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.